This is episode 2 of Ask Fit for Golf, heavy strength training for golfers who want to increase club head speed. What is the point? So golf clubs are light, and one of the main reasons that many people train is that they want to be able to swing them faster. So how does training with heavy weights help us do this? For the purpose of this video, let's assume that heavy weights is a load that you can only lift for approximately 8 repetitions, which will coincide with about 80% of your 1 rep max. For different exercises and different strength levels, that actual load will be vastly different, but it's all relative. In my opinion, heavy strength training is an important inclusion in the overall training plan of golfers for a few key reasons. Number 1 is improving what's called motor unit recruitment. This means that it teaches our central nervous system how to tap into all of our available muscle fibers. The hardest ones to activate are our biggest and fastest ones, known as the type 2X or fast twitch fibers. If you're not training with maximal intent in your movements, you don't train these fibers, and they're extremely beneficial for increasing power production. Heavy strength training is the best tool that we have for this. When using heavy loads relative to our strength level, we're forced to push as hard as possible and recruit all of our available muscle fibers. This is one of the main reasons we get stronger without an increase in muscle size. We get better at recruiting fibers we already have but didn't learn how to use. The second point is increased maximal force production capability. So power is the ability to produce high amounts of force in small time frames. If we do not have the ability to produce high levels of force, it is unlikely we'll be able to produce high levels of force in small time frames. This is a key differential between understanding strength versus power. Strength is how much force that we can produce with no time constraint. So this would be a perfect example of this would be like a 1 rep max lift or pushing against something that you cannot move as hard as you can. There's lots and lots of time to produce as much force as possible. The golf swing happens too quickly to be able to apply all of our force. So what becomes very important is how quickly we can apply force. If our strength levels or how much force we can produce are low to begin with, and we only get to apply a certain amount of our strength, we want to be pulling from a very high base of force. This is one of the main reasons why when people start strength training, their speed increases. They're tapping into a larger base of strength. So if our overall strength levels are low and we only get enough time in the golf swing to tap into a certain amount of that strength, we want to be pulling from a high strength base, not a small one. The third one is what most people associate lifting weights for increasing club head speed, is hypertrophy or increasing muscle size. Bigger muscle fibers, especially the type 2 fibers, which are also known as fast twitch, make it easier to produce force at all velocities. This is extremely valuable for golfers. Unlike running and jumping sports, golfers do not need to propel their body weight. This is why in track and field, sprinters and jumpers have vastly different body shapes and sizes to throwers. Gaining muscle mass can be detrimental in sports where you have to run and jump or project your own body mass, but in golf we don't need to do that. We're trying to put as much force as possible onto an external object, so gaining muscle mass is usually very beneficial for that. That's also one of the reasons why they have weight classes in sports. If you're bigger and stronger, usually you can produce more force. Increasing body mass or weight can also help us increase more ground force because you're heavier, which is an important characteristic for club head speed. Lightweight, high-speed training does not lead to significant increases in muscle size. The key for training to increase muscle size is a combination of motor unit recruitment, which we hit in point number 1, and mechanical loading. This occurs when we are straining against something as hard as possible, but the movement speed is very low. This is not the same as intentionally using slow tempos in your training. You need to be trying to move the load as quickly as possible, but either due to heavy weight when using low reps or fatigue when using high or medium reps, the movement speed is very slow. An advantage for golfers in using higher weights and lower reps when training to enhance muscle size is their strength and power gains will be greater. This is because the force production required for heavier reps is greater than the force production required in lighter or medium reps when you're becoming fatigued at the end of a set. A good way of explaining that is there's far less force being produced in the last rep of a 3 rep max than there is in the last rep of, say, a 12 rep max, even though the effort and difficulty level might feel similar. The fourth one is that it makes power and speed training more effective. So if we get stronger, our power and speed training is of higher quality. When strength levels are low, you cannot produce high amounts of force, as we touched on earlier. In this scenario, if you only train to learn how to apply force more quickly, as opposed to training to increase how much force you can produce, your results will be far from optimal. Improvements in coordination may lead to rapid short-term improvements, but you will likely plateau much faster and at a much lower level than someone who is trying to enhance both simultaneously. Who do you think has more potential for long-term speed improvement? The golfer who only practices swinging faster and faster, or the golfer who practices swinging faster and faster while also training to improve strength, power, and muscle mass? The second golfer will also be less likely to get injured, as his body will be better able to tolerate the extremely high stress levels of maximal speed golf swings. Number 4 is injury prevention. When swinging golf clubs at maximum speed, especially for high volumes, having a healthy amount of muscle mass, muscle strength, and general muscle conditioning will make your body far more resilient and better at tolerating these stresses. Hopefully I have made it clear why heavy strength training is an important consideration for golfers. Something I want to make very clear is that stronger is not always better and may not always be worth it. In the beginning stages of training, strength gains come quite rapidly and they are quite large in magnitude. The transfer from heavy strength training to light, high velocity movements like the golf swing is also very, very clear. This is especially evident in the first year of training. As you advance in your training, however, to continue gaining strength becomes much harder and requires far more strenuous training protocols. The transfer we derive from increases in strength also begin to diminish. The reason for this is that the more advanced we get in our training, the more specific to the sporting action it must be to continue transferring. This may become evident in the second or third year of consistent strength training, but everyone will be different. We are then in a position when we must consider if the strenuous strength training protocols and fatigue built up as a result of them that are required to keep enhancing strength are worth the benefits we get from it. At this point, if we want to keep training to enhance clubhead speed, a shift in training emphasis may be beneficial. Rather than prioritizing lifting heavier and heavier loads as a sign of training progress, we can start to emphasize moving moderate and light loads at higher velocities and in movements that more closely resemble the swing or key power elements of the swing. During this time, we would still train strength, as losing it may be detrimental. Very low training volumes are required to maintain strength versus improve it in high-level athletes, however. In summary, when untrained individuals begin training, they will see huge increases in clubhead speed from improving strength levels. The more and more advanced we get in our strength training, the harder it is to keep improving strength and the more strenuous the strength training protocols must be. The transfer to clubhead speed we will get from this enhanced strength will also begin to decline. This is when more specialized and specific training protocols, which emphasize movement patterns and velocities seen in the swing, will become important if the golfer wants to continue improving clubhead speed. Many golfers already do highly specific speed work in their golf practice by hitting drivers as hard as they can. The more of this you do, the less specific speed work you will require in the gym, and the more benefit you will get from enhancing regular strength and power qualities. i.e. your horsepower. College and professional players are a good example of this. I usually like to provide a blend of general strength work and more specific speed and power work in my programs, but change the emphasis depending on the training level and training background of the golfer. Ask yourself where you fall in this training continuum, and please let me know if you have any questions. Apologies for the long video and a couple of stutters, but please let me know if you have any questions or if you found this useful. Thank you.